Good morning, everyone. Well, yesterday I was wrong. I said there was a lot happening, but not a lot would happen. And well, a lot happened. I thought the UN seat would go 2 rounds. I thought it would take an extra day because of the COVID. The extra precautions they have to take for that. But a lot happened yesterday. We didn't get the seat. There was a skirmish in the House of Commons. The Bloc Québécois coming out swinging, and here's the leader of the Bloc, Yves Francois Blanchet, and he's saying that I know Canada is a monarchy, but I didn't know we had a king. Here he is.
Monarchy. But I didn't know it had an actual king. And somebody that decides everything, makes a show of it on a daily basis, and does not answer to a parliament, does look like a monarchy. And I think that the Prime Minister should come back on earth, be more open-minded, sit with people who have ideas, find solutions somewhere in between what they think, what we think. And I do tell the government very precisely, beware if you keep forgetting and not listening to what Quebec wants, because I will be there to remind them when comes the time. I know Canada is a monarchy.
Right. I agreed with him right up until he put the Quebec thing in. I mean, he could have been speaking for other provinces too, except Alberta. He doesn't like Alberta very much. But it's interesting, the gloves are coming off, but I still think it's pantomime. I still think it's political theater. And there's even more political theater coming up, right? Jagmeet Singh goes crocodile tears on us. But first, let's go back to 2014. This is Justin Trudeau talking about the importance of the UN Security Council seat. This is right after Stephen Harper lost the Security Council seat in 2010. This is Justin Trudeau on Justin Trudeau. Well, actually, it's on Stephen Harper, but it applies today. Here we go.
If Canada hadn't lost its seat on the United Nations Security Council, we would have a much stronger voice to talking across the table to Vladimir Putin. If we were actually still a country of respect at the UN, a country that actually works substantively and meaningfully with international partners at multilateral tables, we would have seen a much better capacity to be effective in sanctions, in holding strong as part of NATO. This country has chosen to use a megaphone instead of actually worry about people listening to them, and that unfortunately is something that has to change.
I don't think Justin Trudeau's been better than Stephen Harper on anything. I don't think that they've been... I don't think Canada's been coherent in anything other than giving Canadian taxpayer dollars out to other countries. And really, like the Asian Infrastructure Bank, I'm not sure what Canada's supposed to get out of that. It's supposed to be a vehicle for something or other. And nobody, I mean, Pierre Poilievre has asked Minister Morneau to explain, to give financial updates. More on that later. We're supposed to get a financial snapshot in July. But it's interesting that nobody is recognizing that Justin Trudeau has been less effective than his predecessor, Stephen Harper, on a whole litany of issues. He criticized Harper for not getting the spending out for infrastructure, campaigned on infrastructure spending, and now Catherine McKenna is on the hook for 22,000 or 20,000 projects of infrastructure spending, about $5 billion of missing infrastructure spending. We don't know where the money is. It was spent. It's supposed to be somewhere, but we just can't find it right now. Sorry, guys. Oh, no. I mean, he campaigned on the promise to build Canada, sends more tax dollars outside of Canada, trying to win this seat, and wins less votes than Stephen Harper, who didn't do any of that. Stephen Harper, who had a budget surplus, right? And we're in the hundreds of billions of dollars in deficit at this point in time. Deficit's just spending over revenue, spending over income, right? Okay. Here's a Twitter person saying one of these headlines was written about a leader who made the campaign for the UN Security Council seat a cornerstone of his foreign policy for half a decade. The other was written about a leader who got more votes than his successor in the UN Security Council seat voting. Hilarious work here, Globe. Here's the 2010 article, and it says, Security Council rejection, a deep embarrassment for Harper. Ooh, deep embarrassment. And as of yesterday, June 17th, 3 months of lockdown. Remember, March 17th was the original lockdown in Ontario. 3 months 3 months and 1 day now. But anyway, June 17th, 2020, Canada loses bid for seat on the United Nations Security Council. There's a stark difference there between the two headlines, isn't there? I'll like that to give it 1,000. And it's not an accident. It's not a mistake. It's not like it wasn't pre-thought out. They're protecting Trudeau from taking the heat, whereas in 2010, the press was complicit in priming people to hate Stephen Harper, right? Anybody but Harper, right? I fell for it too. Back to this. Okay, I did not know this, or maybe I did and forgot. Harper's Canada got 114 votes in its failed bid for a UN Security Council seat, and the Liberals hectored and ridiculed him. Justin World Stage Trudeau gets elected, proclaims Canada is back, and Canada gets 108 votes. Ouch. Stephen Harper refused to compromise. This is Garnet Genius's tweet. And he says, Stephen Harper refused to compromise our principles and got 114 votes in the UN Security Council election. Trudeau sacrificed our principled support for human rights and democracy in order to curry favor and got 108 votes. The sad result of a sad policy. Canada Poly UNSC elections. And I've never seen so many happy people. Here's Andrew Lawton's tweet that I saw yesterday. This is kind of annoying, I apologize, but I can't scroll out of it. Andrew Lawton says, breaking, Canada has lost its bid for a UN Security Council seat. Norway and Ireland won on the first ballot. I really thought it was going to go too. But the excitement and the gifts, right? Yay! The gift dancing, the Antonio Banderas saying like whatever. I can't remember which movie that's from. Assassins. That was not a very good movie. Doesn't matter. But lots of people are talking about how they're very happy about this, or it's funny, right? From The Office. Canada's back, right? People are happy, but friends of mine have messaged me saying, "Oh my God, I'm so glad we didn't win. Like, I'm so glad Trudeau's not the winner of the seat." And I agree. And it's not because I don't like Canada. I mean, clearly, right? I've got multiple internet properties with Canada as the cornerstone of the name, and not .ca and not on Canadian servers. Why? Because I don't trust the Canadian government, right? I mean, they could compel me, but if they were all .ca, etc., they could just walk in, I'm pretty sure. Regardless, moving on. Well, I mean, no, not quite moving on. Trust in government matters, right? And Justin Trudeau said Stephen Harper's awful and like this UN Security Council seat was important, and if you had done it my way, we would have won. And Trudeau got 5 years to do it his way, and he pandered his way clumsily to failure, right? And that is how I feel our government has been run for the last 5 years, clumsily stumbling from one failure to another, and having people say, "Oh, we'll just give him one more shot. We'll just give him one more shot." It's like, no, I'm so glad that he failed. I'm so glad that he failed at this because he didn't deserve it. He's not been a good leader. He's not brought Canada together. He's not been good for the public consciousness. He's not been good for public morale. He's not been good at all. He's not been good at all. Why is he still in his house? Somebody explain to me why he's still in his house. So I'm glad he lost. He's a bad leader and he deserved to lose. And had he won, I would have been concerned that the only reason he won was because he would have been selling us out to countries that he pandered to get there. So I'm glad he lost. It needed to be articulated. Okay, moving on to racism. At one point in Canada's history, we had a segregated school system, and we'll get there in just a minute. But currently, our school system is you have the separate board, which is Catholic board in Ontario, and there are some places like Alberta that have collapsed the Catholic board. You just have one big public board. But the Toronto District School Board has approved funding, and this is 680 News, for the Centre of Excellence for Black Student Achievement. At what point was segregation not racist? At some point, they're taking Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben off of the packaging, right? The companies that own them are removing their likeness. At some point, and I was born in the early 1980s, and had they tried to do this during that point in time, somebody would have called them racist. You're erasing successful black people from visibility, right? Fast forward to progressive, woke, post-national 2020, and GM is removing Aunt Jemima, who is a successful black woman who had her recipe purchased by whichever company purchased it. I don't know if it's the company that owns it now because those companies buy each other, whatever. But she used her money, like she was one of the very first black millionaires. And so removing a successful black woman, a historically significant successful black woman from visibility seems like the opposite of solving racism, but they're doing it. Going back to segregation seems like the opposite of racism, but they're doing it. Here it is. The Toronto District School Board has approved funding to create a new center of excellence for black student achievement. It's being called the first of its kind in public education in Canada. Hold on a second. If we go back to, here's the Canadian Encyclopedia, Racial Segregation of Black People in Canada. Okay, right? This was edited by May 27th, 2019. Education. Ontario school trustees, who were all white. I wonder what the makeup of the Toronto District School Board trustees who came up with this is. How many are white and black, etc.? Is it perfectly 50-50? Is it balanced male-female? Are there as many black males as black females and white females as black, etc.? Is it perfectly balanced? If it's not, it's invalid. Somebody will have little hashtags on a non-perfectly balanced, racially mixed Board of Education. Anyway, back to this. Created separate schools for black children in certain parts of southwestern Ontario, particularly where there were high concentrations of recently arrived freedom seekers. See Fugitive Slave Act 1850. There were also cases of trustees tampering with electoral boundaries to prevent black children from attending certain schools, thereby requiring them to attend the all-black separate school in the district. In 1850, the Common Schools Act, the legislation governing education in Ontario, was amended to include the separate schools clause. The separate schools clause allowed for the establishment of separate schools for Catholics, Protestants, and blacks. The amendment allowed these communities to request a separate school through the school board of trustees. However, common school trustees used the clause to support the practice of racial segregation by requesting separate schools for black children, even if black parents objected. So we are now forced to believe that removal of these cultural icons, the removal of these successful people, is removing racism, and segregating schools is not racist, it's progressive. Here's more, back to the article, and I've got one more thing to show you. Well, I'll tell you now. Malcolm Gladwell is a Waterloo author. He's just down the road from us. And Malcolm Gladwell is thorough, although he is a lefty. Like he views things through the lefty lens. And so once I woke up, I found it hard to delve into some of his stuff because it's very tilted, right? And that's not a criticism. It's just that's his worldview, and that's whatever. It is what it is. My stuff is tilted in a different way. It is what it is. But Gladwell does a good job at looking at things, and he goes more broad than a lot of teachers do. Okay, and so I found his revisionist history podcast interesting, and in it he does an episode 3. I think it's in the second season, but it could be in the first. This is 2017, I think. But the podcast is called Revisionist History, and it's Mrs. Buchanan's Period of Adjustment, which examines the Brown versus Board of Education. And in it, he said, when the school boards were collapsed into a single school board, which teachers do you think were hired to teach all the children? It wasn't the black teachers, right? And so there was and he says here, hold on, I'll get the quote. Okay, he says here, Mrs. Buchanan's Period of Adjustment is very much about that. It's a re-examination of the Brown decision, which is formally a legal document, but famously relied on social science to reach its conclusion in the episode. I'm really examining the social science at the core of it and saying that the social science argument that the court made was wrong, or at least was painfully and tragically incomplete. There are million really important questions that arise out of the general re-examination of Brown that's gone on, and one of them is that social science arguments are incorporated into public policy often at social science's peril. And really, my focus there is that the social science argument the court made was incorrect or not complete. And using the example that I started with, which is the teachers that got hired were not the teachers that were originally teaching those students, right? So just imagine your student was attending school A, and then they had to go to school B, and they didn't have an option to stay in school A, and they got a new teacher. And I mean, there were societal implications as well. Like, that's a tough adjustment, and I mean, it was handled poorly. But going back to the Toronto District School Board, I think that it is folly to pretend that segregation is more fair and more equal. Shouldn't all students have their success prioritized the same? Shouldn't all students get what they need? Shouldn't students that are failing, regardless of gender or race, get the help that's outlined here, and I'm going to outline right now? If not, why not? If not, isn't that racism? If the only reason these people are getting more help is because they're black, isn't that racism? No? Explain to me why. Right? Okay, back to this. The center's mandate includes providing support to black students to combat racism, identify barriers to success, and access appropriate resources, create professional learning in anti-black racism. So this newly created segregated system is going to create professional learning in anti-black racism. Incentivize something and you get more of it. Back to this. And to provide annual accountability reports. Quote, it is critical that the center hold up a mirror to us as leaders about the ways in which anti-black racism manifests itself in TD, Toronto District School Board, so we can become more responsive to and accountable for dismantling it while simultaneously providing a space of hope, agency, and change for black students and their families. Colleen Russell Rollins, Associate Director of Equality, Wellbeing, and School Improvement, said in a release. Can you imagine if that was about white students? Could you release a statement like that about white students? Ever? Like, I understand that Black Lives Matter is trending and stuff, but could imagine that statement being released about white students or Indian students or like Pakistani students or like any Asian students? Could you do that? Maybe you could get away with it if it wasn't white. If it was white, you would get attacked. Back to the article. The center will have around 20 staff positions, including a social worker, a child and youth counselor. I'm a child and youth worker. I graduated from there. I worked in that field for 16 years. Let me tell you the makeup of the students who are falling through the cracks. They're men. They're boys. Maybe they're black, maybe they're white, but they're boys, okay? It's similar to the prison numbers, right? Like 95% or something like that. I don't have an exact number, but most of it are boys. Now, in the last few years, girls have been steadily increasing. The troubles that young girls seemed immune from in the 90s and early 2000s, not so much anymore. And by 2010, 11, and I was on the way out at that point in time, I was working in specialized niches, but people who were working with general populations were seeing a lot more girls, so my numbers could be skewed. But child and youth workers are by and large girls, women who are doing the job, and they're serving a population of boys and men, right? And by the time a boy is 14 years old, they are very, very strong. Very strong. A man is 3 times stronger than a woman. Just your average man versus your average woman, 3 times stronger. Women versus men in a physical fight, women lose, period. Every time. Most times, right? And that's just the physical strength. Unless the woman has been training a lot, they're going to lose if the man is trying. So when you have, and I know I'm diatribing and talking a lot, but when you've got a population of women serving a population of men who are failing in a system, it's hard for those people to connect with the people to help them, right? Like you need to make a connection in order to help somebody. They have to trust you, right? And if you're there, if you're doing your job and running the motions and stuff, it takes time. And I don't know that this is the right makeup to solve the problem. Anyway, back to this. Child and youth counselor, 5 graduation coaches, all focused on support for black students, improving students' experiences and identifying ways in which anti-black racism is operating in the Toronto District School Board and offering possible solutions to eradicate it. You need a better goal than to find anti-black racism and eradicate it. This is a lot of money, right? The goal is to find anti-black racism and eradicate it? Seriously? This is just a witch hunt gone absolutely crazy and wrong. It's wrong. It's racist. It's being embraced by the leadership. It's being embraced by people who think they're going to get more specialized care for their student or something to that effect. It's embraced by people who don't look past the very surface. It's a surface thing. Moving on, because, man, I could diatribe about that forever. Back to this. Okay, global news, and this is the last story for this morning. I've got lots of stories for this morning. Like, they want to remove Gandhi from the statue on the Carleton campus. Did you know Gandhi himself confessed to sleeping with young girls? Moa Manu Ben, I don't know how to say that, who is his grandniece included. As per Gandhi, he was practicing abstinence, and this was a method to test if his self-control had not weakened. I mean, poor girl, if it had. right? Facebook is is hiring 8 journalists. Can you wait till the fake news is just like made directly by Facebook? Okay, and the last story this morning. Last story this morning. Jagmeet Singh was booted from the House of Commons yesterday for calling Bloc Québécois MP racist. And so I'm going to read a bit of what happened and a little bit more of what happened, and then we're going to watch Jagmeet put on a little political theater performance for us. Okay, and that'll end our day. All right, Jagmeet Singh booted from the House of Commons for calling Bloc MP racist. Singh had asked the Commons to recognize that there is systemic racism in the RCMP and to call on the government to review the police force's budget, ensure that the Mounties are truly accountable, examine the Mounties' use of force, and boost non-police spending on mental health and addiction support. Isn't this the same police force that Trudeau said we're arm's length from them? We can't order them to stop the railway blockades. They're able to govern themselves, but not on racism. On racism, you need to be micromanaged by Jagmeet Singh. Didn't you take the curb for your employment for your staffers there, Jagmeet? Yeah, right. Like maybe get your own house in order first. Back to this. There was at least one objection that derailed the move, though it was unclear who said no. The Speaker asked Singh to apologize for calling Bloc MP Alain Théran, sorry if I got that wrong, racist, but the NDP leader refused. For its part, the Bloc said it declined to endorse the NDP motion because it was supporting a Commons Public Safety Committee study of RCMP racism, which it considered a major issue. The party did not want to handcuff the committee before its work had even begun. Right, if the committee is tasked with finding if there is racism and where it is and all that other stuff, saying you have to find racism, handcuffs the study. Back to this. Bloc MP Claude Bellefeuille, sorry if I got that wrong, came to Théran's defense, saying that the NDP was treating her colleague as a racist person, which is unacceptable in the House of Commons. The Speaker asked Singh to apologize, but he refused. In a statement late Wednesday, de Bellefeuille, excuse me if I got that wrong again, said in French that Singh slandered Théran with an unjustified insult and called for the NDP leader to apologize immediately. Asked whether the Bloc thought it was appropriate that one of its MPs had blocked the NDP motion, de Bellefeuille said her party supported a request that the Commons Public Safety Committee study the existence of systemic racism in the RCMP, but think it's inappropriate to impose conclusions on the committee ahead of the study. Singh did not back down when asked about the incident later. Quote, "We had a motion to call out systemic racism in the RCMP and provide some really clear steps to stop it in the future," Singh said. "Anyone who wants to vote against that is a racist." Yes, said Singh. Here's a little bit more details on what happened. It appeared that all other parties were on side with the motion, but an audible no came from the area in the House of Commons where the Bloc Québécois caucus sits. To reporters in the viewing gallery above the House of Commons, Singh and Théran could be seen exchanging heated words after a few rows away from each other and out of the view of the Commons cameras before Bloc Québécois MP and Party Whip Claude de Bellefeuille called on the House of Commons Speaker Anthony Rota to call for order, saying in French that the NDP leader had insulted her colleague and was using unparliamentary language. Singh then rose and said in French, "It's true, I called him a racist." He was asked to apologize and he refused. After a few minutes of deliberation, Rota rose and ruled that for his comments and refusal to apologize when asked, Singh was not able to participate in the remainder of that day's sitting. So he was expelled. Now here's Singh's political theater. Here we go.
MP not only say no, but make eye contact with me and just kind of brush his hand, dismiss it. And in that moment, I got angry. I'll be honest, I got angry. But I'm sad now. Because why can't we act? Why can't we do something to save people's lives? We can do something. And why would someone say no to that?
Oh, I've got an answer. Because they didn't want to hamstring the committee before the committee had a chance to do their work. It's pretty easy, man. And like the political theater, they're definitely racist if they disagree with me. And the pausing and all that other stuff. I mean, come on, dude. Like people don't want to see we've had years of Trudeau. Did you see his hair? Like Rosemary Barton fawning all over his haircut. I mean, come on. People want substance, right? This is bull. This is garbage. It has absolutely no basis in real life. If you got your motion passed and the committee was forced to find racism, it would be inappropriate. If you feel like the government can't intervene in railway blockades because the police are autonomous, but feel like you need to turn the screws to the committee to make sure they find racism in the RCMP so you can then heighten the oversight. That's inappropriate. That is not what people want. But Jagmeet Singh doesn't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And he's going to try and make political hay, and it'll work too, because there are people who see things through that lens and that lens only. They're not able to see that there's certainly more than one way to look at it, right? If you want to see racism in everything and use racism as the proof that the Bloc Québécois leader blocked that initiative, then you're not going to be able to engage in the real world conversation of what actually happened. And that's a problem for the leader of the NDP. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching, everybody. One more thing really quick. We were supposed to have a fiscal update. I teased this earlier. That's the only reason I'm saying anything about it. We were supposed to have a fiscal update in March 30th. That was when the budget was supposed to get put out, and that's usually a confidence vote. Then COVID-19 happened, the lockdowns happened, blah, 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 blah. And now we're not supposed to get, Trudeau 2 days ago said, no, we're not going to have a fiscal update because it's too unreliable. And then after everybody lost their mind, he said, okay, we'll do one in July. So we're getting one in July, but the PM is saying what is coming down the pipe is not any kind of fiscal or economic update. It'll be a snapshot of where the economy is. So basically, here's how much we spent, and we don't know. Bye. So yeah, fiscal update, not so much, but we're going to get an idea of how much the government spent on our behalf, approved through the House of Commons in mid-July. So, enjoy your summer vacation if the lockdowns are lifted, because Doug Ford also extended the lockdown. I know. I sent a bunch of tweets about it. I think he's losing it. People aren't going to agree. Not anymore. They're not even doing it now. I mean, I was out at my park and I was like, I'm going to take this down because this is stupid. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. I'll be recording today with Kelly. And have a wonderful, wonderful day.